Okay, so hello and welcome. Hello and welcome to the movement showcase. So today it's a presentation from the class, from some classes from the audio design course from the School of Popular Arts in Berlin. And also it was a collaboration project with the University for Creative Arts in London. And they are also participating in that event from abroad, or what does it mean from abroad, from London. And yes, I'm really lucky, and I'm really looking forward to see what the students will show us today. So it will be an event where the students, it was created in collaboration in the courses Instruments, Interfaces and Installations, and also with project organization, which will hold by Laura Lee. And yes, so today we will see installations, performances, dance performances, and also something left, music performances, of course, and instruments. Yes, so some of the students also designed instruments. So I'm really looking forward, and I will hand over the microphone to Laura Lee. And yeah, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'd just like to say, I'm walking here. Okay, cool, guys. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone putting their projects together. I moved to Berlin just before COVID happened, and then we sat together for the idea of this module, and it's called Movement. And I moved here on an Erasmus for a bit of inspiration in life, and it was good, and I came here. And so then I had this idea about getting people collaborating remotely a lot, and it seems to work quite nicely. And same for this project. I just would like to introduce our UCA partners. So we have James Armstrong and James Wright. I don't know if you want to say a few words from the side of UCA. So yes, James, can you hear me now? James Armstrong.
Hello.
James Wright. I don't know if you want to say a few words from the side.
We've got a bit of a lag here. We're like
UCA.
watching you in two different time periods. But yeah, hello. Here we are. I'm James Wright. I'm a technician here at UCA.
Yeah, and I'm James Armstrong. I'm one of the lecturers in music at UCA.
So yeah, we're sorry we can't be there in person, but we're very excited to hear
So yes,
what's going to
James,
come.
can you hear me now?
That's the latency issue.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thanks, guys. Yes, so we're going to start with the first performance, Chain Interaction. Shall I hand it over?
Yeah, you can hand over this.
Yeah, because I have to make a small introduction. There will be Daniel over in the UK playing the intro, and then we will sort of morph our two sounds. And it's actually an interaction. That means we invite everyone to come upstairs and do a few things. So there's one point here, the vinyl player is controlling the BPM of our project, so everyone can actually control our project BPM. Then there is the low side of the bass that is pitchable, you can pitch that. And then there's an iPad which has has some parameters you can play with. And then actually it's a pretty cool feature. There's a camera from the MacBook which controls a few parameters through motion. So we highly invite you to be adventurous with those parameters and see where it leads in those interactive presentation.
Thank you. So, okay, we will start.
And you can join on the stage.
Thanks a lot for this presentation of chain interaction. And how did you came up with the idea chain interaction, and what does it mean for you in relationship to the topic movement? So I will hand over the microphone to you.
Yeah, maybe. I had a little bit of feedback, but it should be all right. Our first idea came up with cymatics, which they had like a sort of fusion of like physical elements and sound, and they combined that. And we have a Dana machine in school, which is really cool because you can play instruments with MIDI notes. That's what we do with the kick. And so those two ideas sort of merged into one, where we wanted to get actual like physical. You can see that the kick is played, and combine that with some digital input, MIDI input, and like its own presentation that's playing for itself, sort of, yeah. And the movement obviously then is something we have here. For example, the vinyl player that is spinning, and every time it hits the microphone, it sends a signal in to Ableton, which then is counting the BPM of the speed, basically. So we have physical movement that actually controls our our presentation. And I mean, there's the same for the motion tracking device here, right? You move up your arm, and then the filter goes up and down. So that's sort of a hybrid. We learned a lot about motion tracking in the course, and that's where that idea came from. Yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to answer this question as well. Okay, is that enough? Yeah.
Thank you.
I was going to just ask about. Sorry, I'm coming over here, guys. I was just going to ask about. So we had a few people interacting. What would be like the ideal scenario and setting for more people to interact, and how could you expand this setup further? Do you think?
Yeah, this could be maybe for in sound installation in somewhere in a interactive club / installation setup, kind of maybe also in the Elektronische Musikmuseum or something like that, which is in Hamburg. And yeah, it's sort of what we have planned or what we have thought of is just to make like a path, and on this path there are all these interaction models, and there is a description of what you're capable to change there, so that just spectators who aren't that familiar with music know what to do and how to interact. And yeah, it could be like a path where you pass on, and there is a PA system where you listen to the track, and you can constantly influence and play with the parameters like it is here. And yeah, you could expand it a little bit more using more instruments which are triggered. We have now a kick, we have a bass, we have a shaker and a snare. You could, for example, use cymbals as well, or hi-hats, but for this purpose you would need more time, I think, and also more pins for the other machines, which work, because here we have some.
But also more place. Yeah, you would also need more place, like because each of the instruments will, the microphones will, bleed into each other. So you will hear the kick on the snare microphone, and so we would need a bit more space and maybe something to divide the small elements from.
Maybe even like closed boxes, like it's usual in some of those installations. First of all, so nobody can steal anything. And second, you have an acoustic separation between those elements, and you just have the one parameter you need in front of you, which you can then change. And for example, the thing, or the camera is inside the box, and then you are outside and you can move or whatever, so that you have closed spaces for every instrument, that you don't have this cross bleed. You would need more space, obviously, but that could be an idea. And we also thought about doing this in our own, like that we interact at a club setting just as a performance. That could be also a possibility to use that setup. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. People from UCA, do you also like to ask, do you have some question related to the project? It's muted here, one moment.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello. That was an amazing performance. Sorry, we're getting a bit confused here with the delay, but yeah, super vibey. And what I really liked about it is there was no sort of single director. Like, you were all sort of contributing and working towards this very systematic way of working with the music. Yeah, I got proper lost in it. What do you think, James?
Yeah, so the first thing that stood out to me was the device with the turntable and the cards. That was mesmerizing. And although I was taking in the entire performance, I kept sort of fixating on that. Found really quite fascinating. The bass sounded absolutely huge. The low end in the track was shaking our room here, so that was really something. And right at the end, that granular delay and reverb effect, that massive reverb washed out sound, I thought was really cool as well.
Yeah, really nice work.
Thanks a lot. So, thanks. Do you like to say some words, or you're yeah? Okay, good.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to all my collaborators. It was a very nice project, and it was fun. Also very stressy sometimes, but it was a big project and a huge challenge for us, also with the visuals, because it's actually seems to be very easy, but it's a very messy and a big patch. And also the motion tracking and Mira and the thing with the vinyl was very challenging, but we figured it out. And the funny thing about this project was that everything changed in the process. We had completely different ideas. I never thought I would do something patching or stuff like that, and then it turned out the way it did. We wanted to use first we wanted to use that as a sound as well, but it turned out to be cooler using that as a BPM fader. And that was very fun working with you guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. Yes.
Thanks a lot. Well done. And it was a pleasure to see the outcome of this 5-week course. And yes, looking forward to see this performance again in a club or somewhere at a different place. Thank you. Yes. So. Yes. And the next performance will be APA. Yeah. Okay, good. No problem. So you can already go upstairs and set up your notebook. So APA will perform a live set. Do you like to introduce it, or we will wait until Paul is here because it's, and then you can make a short introduction until Paul is here. And yeah, looking forward.
So my colleague Paul is coming up to the stage now. We made a live set that deals with the topic of movement in different ways. We tried to do it over the song structure of single songs, but also about the set structure. And hopefully you will be able to grasp all the different ways we try to approach this topic. Yeah, and maybe questions afterwards.
To the Neuralink product demo.
We are experiencing technical difficulties, so trying to fix that.
Really excited to show you what we've got. I think it's gonna blow your mind. So the current medical research has shown that you can read neurons in a human brain. Something called deep brain stimulation, where they put electrodes, a small number of electrodes in your brain, and will actually zap your brain with an electric current. The wires then connect within a few centimeters or about an inch away from the device. The beeps you're hearing are real-time signals from the neural link in Gertrude's head. Gertrude's head. The beats you're hearing are real-time signals from the neural link in Gertrude's head.
I don't think they know what they're doing.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Apa. It was very great to listen to your piece, to your live set. I've heard that that was your first time when you collaborate together. Is it true? Yeah. And so, please, could you tell us what was the most challenging part and how did you came together, and also what is your musical background?
So what should I start with the musical background, maybe? Yeah. I mean, obviously, Paul is from a drum bass background, but maybe he can tell you more about that in a second. And I'm from a mixed up, deconstructed club background. So that was a big challenge to bring us both somehow together, also like the working way, because we didn't really know how to approach it. So we started with me just doing the intro and then sending it to Paul, and he doing 2 tracks and then sending it back to me. And he actually played with the session, no, with the, what's the view? That's the session view, and I played with the arrangement view. So they were also like, and we linked up through Ableton through my phone actually. So there was a lot of like different obstacles to overcome, but I think in the end it worked out quite well. Yeah. You want to tell them something about your background, or?
Yeah, so as Armin said, I'm from a drum and bass background. I did a lot of drum and bass, but now I'm kind of trying to move past from that. And for me, the most challenging part was to find a way to do the transitions between the drum and bass parts to Armin's more experimental sounds. Yeah.
And when you prepared your live set, so did you meet quite often, or how did you prepare your live set? So, and also which tools did you use to create your live set?
Actually, we didn't meet that often. We kept in touch all the time, but we met like 3 times, I think. Once at my crib, once at his, and once in the school. And that was actually sufficient because we always kept in touch and communicated about what we want to do. And I feel like we were on the same page about the whole concept that we built up before. So that wasn't really a problem. Through COVID also, we all learned to work together online, obviously. And I worked with other musicians before online and just sending things back and forth, and it just works like a charm. So we did that, and the tools that we used for it was basically Ableton. I think we both produced some tracks for it. Paul had a different approach. You used the session view?
Yeah, for me, I used the session view in Ableton and a lot of samples or stems from songs I produced prior. So I didn't have to create a lot of new material, but had to find a way to fit the existing material into a live performance set, because also all these songs weren't written for a live performance. They were written to play on a DJ controller, so I had to find a way to perform them live.
And yeah, I basically worked in the session view and used some old songs and manipulated them in a way to make it fit and produce some new songs, and yeah.
And you mentioned also the concept, yes, that the concept gives you the frame for this collaboration or for the project. Could you say some words about the concept which you had in mind when you started this collaboration?
Of course, because obviously the topic is movement. So we were just thinking about how could we approach this topic, because it's so broad, and obviously there's a lot of ways to approach it. So we thought we might take advantage of all these different ways to approach it, as we're so different in the music styles. So I was just thinking about, of course, BPM, moving from the BPM up to down to up again, approaching it sonically, approaching moving effects, the song structure itself that might stumble or collapse and get up again and stumble again, and the set structure also. Yeah, so there's so many different ways, and I think we made use of all of them, and also tried to combine the more populistic or like pop approach, like four to the floor drum bass with the experimental sound that I do, so they actually complement each other in the whole set structure.
Yeah. And one other way we try to incorporate movement, or at least that I thought movement was incorporated, was to change between different genres or types of music. So we had this drum and bass break part, then we had a four to the floor, more like a mid-tempo part, and then in the end you heard a small hip-hop beat that was created by Bonish. So we incorporated a lot of different genres, and as well as Armin's soundscapes is kind of hard to put into one genre, but it's definitely a genre in and of itself.
Yeah, thanks a lot. For me, it works very great, and I like to listen more of your collaboration. And Laura, do you have some questions? I ask already a lot of them, but then we can also ask the UCA guys.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask UCA very shortly, but I just thought I'm just quite interested in, imagine if you had a 4-hour set, or if you had a 2-hour set, but you had a 15-minute set. So I almost think that you end up more sort of mash up and cutting because of that style. Do you think if you had obviously carried on this collaboration with a 2-hour set, you would still do the similar transitions, or how would you build the live setup from there?
I think that the songs would be a little bit longer maybe, but also that mashup style is kind of like what I like to approach anyway. But there would be more played out, definitely, yeah. The way we approached this also to like bring us both together is, for example, the intro was stems from Paul's song that I manipulated for the intro to feed into his song, basically. And I think we would maybe work with those kind of, with those kind of stylistic devices more to even morph us more together, maybe produce songs together even. And yeah.
I'm always quite interested because obviously making music both in Berlin and from London, obviously drum and bass is very UK style, and it's always this intenseness, which I'm always appreciate. Cool. So I don't know if UCA have any questions.
No, you go first.
Not any questions, just comments.
Yeah.
So I thought it was wonderfully energetic, and you have a lovely blend between staple sounds in the genre, but your own flares in there as well. It was really spacious, great use of stereo field. Around halfway through, there was this kind of alarm tone that really went beyond the speakers in the room. It sounded fantastic. And although I knew it was coming, I still wasn't prepared for that massive drop at the end. It was huge. Really well done.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the mix of the three sort of universes. So having more of the experimental meets drum and bass, and then bringing in Bonish at the end with the hip hop. Like on paper, it almost sounds like it shouldn't work, but the way you transition between those different movements worked really, really well. And I kind of had this really nice push and pull where you didn't want to get too comfortable in one place. We're sort of, as we're about to get somewhere, we've got brought to the next scene. But yeah, massive energy, bouncy, punchy, spacey, as James said. Big fan. Yeah, loved it. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Apa. And we will do a short break now for around 20 minutes until the next live sets or instruments will be presented. Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah. So hello and welcome after this short break. Yeah, the next presentation will be from Alexander and should I say Desi? Desi. And I think you will introduce yourself and we'll do a short presentation. So looking forward.
Let's do it. Should I take off my mask? Maybe. All right, sound check. Cool. I'm Desi, and this is Alex. Unfortunately, Genza cannot be here today because she missed the train from Kuhn. But but I guess we can do this presentation or little showcase ourselves because our stuff is not live and doesn't require everybody to be here. And so this project was conceptualized by Alex first. So we try to come up with a model or experiment or kind of a pipeline to experiment with fusion hybrid art form where we can combine sound, performance art, and video art together, and we kind of use body movement as a kind of a MIDI controller or as a instrument, so that can also kind of morph the sound and in live and in an interactive way. So. Yep. So we found some technical tools. Like the one that was recommended by Alex was called a Media Pipe at first, and then I found another tool that uses the techniques used by Media Pipe to convert that into OSC, so we can actually analyze a video in either interactively, like live, or in pre-recorded, to have them converted to live OSC data. Then we can convert that into a max patch in Alex set and create some sound. So today we can show you guys some recordings that we have and talk about, show you some results that we have already. And let me see if I can play this. I cannot. So this part is actually the software that we're using to try to track her movements and try to translate everything. We can play a clip. Is actually quite funny because the software think this part is also someone dancing for some reason, but yeah, I can show this. So I guess the lesson here is also try to, next time when we record, we try to use more color differentiable shooting sets or lighting conditions to exclude any unwanted background. But I guess that's also have some funny effects on the sound as well.
So to be fair, we used OBS to later send it to the webcam, the video, and I cropped the picture to just use the person, so we didn't have any problems with that. Hey.
Cool. Cool. And I wonder if I can play this sound. All right, Alex, do you want to elaborate on how you connected the max patch? Like what movement and what point is connected?
The max patch? Okay. So you can see like the basic max patch. I used like the sub patches that Marco gave us, these little things, which basically do all the work. So everything else is just OC routing. And yeah, I used like the basic, like the most important points, the hands, the X and Y parameters, the ankles, So we get the feet, the hips. I combined the hips into one because, as you could see in the video before, there was 2 hip points, left and right. And then I also used distance of the hands on the X and Y axis. And yeah, and we kind of just make this little max patch. Oh, right, and then actually I had some problems with it because I found out that you can't actually, or at least I don't know how to, you can't actually record automation that's mapped to another parameter in that particular instrument. So I added a new little, actually can't see it here yet, but new little numbox, and I recorded all the automation in a new audio clip, or a new audio clip for all the tracks, and then I copy pasted these automations onto the tracks and parameters that I wanted to have them on. A little bit of a workaround, but it would work live, just not for recording and like recording the automation and saving it for later. But yeah, that's kind of the max patch. Right. Okay, so what we did is we had the video earlier, right, with Gamze, the third member, dancing, and on one hand we tracked the motion, and the second thing we did is we recorded with microphones all the sounds she made while dancing, and put these to the track. I cleaned it up a little bit, but like it's basically exactly the way it was, which is quite a fun result, but. Yeah, I guess could even be a little more. Right, but we'll play it in a second. Basically, I just made a very, very basic and very simple, more or less ambient track, so you could like really hear and appreciate the automation and the sounds we made. And we'll probably play that in a second. This is just, you can see all the automations on the different parameters. This is all recorded. Like the contrast is not great, but you can kind of see it. And it's fun because, for example, oh, can you go back? Sorry for a second. Yep. For example, at the very end, where she walks out of the frame and like does some big movements, you can like really see it in the automation. But yeah. Right. Oh yeah, that's just the recording of. So actually, we had 4 tracks for the recording because we used 2 directional microphones. A lav mic on her mouth, and then also one more microphone on the ground in the middle. But the one in the middle sounded pretty crappy, and the lav mic died halfway. So we couldn't actually use that, and we only have like stereo track left and right, which was good enough because actually they picked up a lot of noise from like her mouth and breathing and everything. So we didn't actually really need the lav mic. Yeah. Cool. Oh yeah, and that's the max patch. Like. Yeah, in Ableton.
All right, let's. Showcase our experiment that we have already. Yep. I cannot manage to get the original audio to play, I guess. I guess we'll skip that. I'll save it for next time. Yeah. All right. Thank you all for your attention. But it was a really fun experiment for us because we went in this collab without knowing like what each of us can bring into this. But I think what we're hoping for is to develop a model for future projects where we can easily adapt this pipeline to use for any type of motion to sound control or interactive audio design with body movement. And I think when we have a basis to work with right here, and yeah, I think and I don't know how to do a conclusion here. All right, do you have any words to add? Okay, cool. All right, thanks. Questions?
Thanks a lot, Desi and Alexander, and Gamze, who is not here today, for performing or presenting these dance to music project. How did you work together? Or for me, it was thought when Gamze did her movements, did he listen to the sound or how it works for her?
So what we did is Alex produced the music first, right? And then we sent it to her. So she was actually listening to the sound via Bluetooth headphones. So he was dancing to the sound, actually. Yeah, but actually we expected her to do more movement. But then because we kind of left the dancing or choreography up completely up to her. So it's like her interpretation of the sound. And so then we took that interpretation and we took the data that's collected from, that's generated by her dance, and then we try to redo something and try to layer that onto Alex's music and onto the automation stuff.
And did you do different rounds, or that means, so did she took several takes, or how was it for you? And
I think we did 5 takes, and some takes we used a different color background, and some takes we asked her to do more movement or less movement, make more noises or less noises. But we just pick one that's that fits the kind of fits the overall vibe. But there are like 2-3 takes where there's more movement, but then that generates way too much noise on the paper, paper in this photo studio, so we end up not using them. But I guess we can still recycle a lot of the materials that we have and to make something different in the final product, or to cut another version.
And so, Alex, you produced the sound first. And so what did you have in mind related to the topic movement when you created your piece?
The exact opposite. So I didn't introduce any movement. So I wanted to make it as boring as possible. No, not quite, but like, well, I mean, it's more or less like some ambient stuff, some arpeggios, some pads, some drones, and I didn't use or almost used no automation, no effects, because I wanted to introduce all that through the movement and like with the video. And so yeah, basically the idea was actually to not introduce much movement into the song, because the movement part would be connecting the yeah? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the movement comes from actual like physical movement, not from the song.
What were the challenges related to the parameter mapping, or how did you choose, okay, the left arm or the movement up and down goes to these and that effect? How did you create these routing?
So there was actually like some thought that went into that, because, for example, there was like a few quite obvious things, like arm distance could be like a filter opening up and closing. And then I also wanted to try to have like arms or head control some of the more high frequency sound, and maybe legs or hip do more of the bass sounds. The problem is I had to switch it up a little bit in between, because obviously not every sound is playing all the time in the song. And for quite a few scenes, I mean, you could see it in the movie, the movie, she doesn't actually move that much. And so when we had like a long bass part and she didn't take any steps or move at all, it didn't really make sense to put like her hip or her feet on that. So I switched up a little bit, but yeah, kind of like that.
Thank you. Laura, do you have some questions? Yeah.
I just had a question, because it just reminded me, I went to the Urban Contemporary Art Gallery in Berlin 2 weeks ago, and there was this piece by Philip Glass with a choreographer, and it's done in France. You should watch it. It really reminded me of that, and I thought it was quite nice that you feels like you've made like a genuine piece of art, not sort of like, yeah, I just thought it was a beautiful piece in itself. That was my response. I don't know for UCA, any responses to the work?
Hello. Yeah, Marco asked a lot of the questions that we were also going to ask. I guess one thing I wanted to quickly ask was the track that you made prior, Alex. What was your thoughts? Like, were you just making a piece of music for music's sake, or what was your thought process into making that particular piece of music for this particular project?
Okay, I could probably make something up, but the truth is I had just bought some new plugins and I just wanted to test them out. So I just, used some new plugins I found and tried like just doing stuff with it. It was fun. I was like, of course I knew what I wanted to do, because I wanted it to be somewhat, like I said, ambient and slow, and something that you could actually hear the movement, even if it's like small changes. Even if you just raise the arm a little bit, I wanted it to be noticeable. So that kind of was the idea. So I did try to make everything kind of slow, kind of drony, kind of ambient. But no, there was no like specific like composition idea. I just kind of went for it.
No, that's cool. To be fair, you're not, better than 95% of people who buy plugins and don't use them. So well done for that. I thought it was a great concept. I thought it was well thought out. You obviously ran into some problems with getting reflections, which you troubleshooted really well. I think there's some really interesting directions you can go in. Maybe bringing something like motion capture into it, actually having sort of suits to give you that additional MIDI information. That might be kind of cool. But yeah, I love the concept of it, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Any thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, that was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The thing that really stood out to me was the contrast between the musical sound and then the movements and sort of the breathing. And I know that was very much part of the end product, but I was wondering, was this intentional to have such a contrast between very electronic sounds and then very physical sounds? And if so, what was it? What was the statement you were hoping to make with that?
I wouldn't say necessarily, because I thought about it, but it's not like it was the main intention. It's just that I produced more electronic music and I wanted to introduce natural movement. And so I thought, well, natural sounds from like a human body would be interesting to bring to that. And so it kind of just made sense to combine them.
I think it worked very well. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great presentation and very nice project. And looking forward for the next dance performance project. One last question. So when we meet first, so it was for you quite, or you say, it will not be a live performance, it will be a pre-recorded video. What was the reason for you to mention, okay, it will be something like, because you mentioned also that you have also background in dance, yes? So what was the choice to say, okay, it will be a piece, yes, in a way, as a video and not as a live performance thingy?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind when you think about dance is performance and life, but I just kind of wanted to go away from that and say, well, how about we just use dance as an instrument, and not like do it live. And it was like conceptualized from the very beginning not to be like a live performance thing. Of course, you could make it into one, but like that was not the idea. It was to actually use the human body as an instrument to play and interact with a song in a recording.
Thank you. So, yes. So the next will be SMAC. They will present their instrument. And so first, thanks to you. And yes, it will take, I think, 1 or 2 minutes, and then SMAC will present the instrument. Okay. Are you ready? Okay. Yeah, great. So now Luis and Jasper will present their project. The project name is SMAC, correct? Yeah. And I will hand over the microphone to you, and then you can introduce the project or present it live.
Hey guys, so Jasper and me and Joshua from the UCA together created the project called SMAC, and it's basically a musical instrument based on a flight controller system for PC games, like flight game simulators. And we used Max for Live to communicate with Ableton Live, and created a really big instrument patch inside of Ableton Live that we can control together with the instrument we bought. And we will split up the presentation in two parts. So we have the first part, which basically just like presents you the MIDI communication between Ableton Live and the instrument, and then the second part is the main attraction, I guess, which is the complex bass patch. So we're gonna start with our first demonstration. So we created this demonstration because it is a flight controller, and that was the first thing that came to mind to make like a thrust control similar to the one in a plane, and the sound that comes with it. And the second part of the whole instrument, which is the main part, is this bass patch here, which is, as you can see, a pretty large one. And we mapped different parts of the flight controller to different CCs inside of the patch. So you have a maximum of 7 modulation sources you can use to map it, and you also have like some of the sliders control multiple values at once, and you can switch the destination by pressing a designated button on the controller. And I think, should you go just with demonstrating the... All right. Du musst noch einmal den hast du drauf gedrückt? Perfekt. Fang mit Filter geschlossen an. All right, so what do you guys think of somebody of you coming over to test the thing out? Maybe you? And if you have any questions, just ask them, and we're gonna all right, he's doing it. Yeah, so maybe I'm going to use this part to explain the different modulations. So please don't play right now. So you have two buttons on the inside of the right joystick, which trigger the notes. So you have a C2. I'm going to just reset it for a second. Yeah. Thank you. So you have two buttons on the right joystick. The upper one is a C2, and the lower one is a C3. And basically, these are the main note triggers you can use. And you have a pitch bend range from +12 to -12 semitones, which gets bigger, of course, if you use the C3 note trigger. And then on the left side, you have the thrust control, which controls the frequency modulation. So if you hold down the note and increase it, you can hear the FM. And then also on the left controller, you have a little bit more control than on the right joystick. You have this wheel on the top here you can access with your index finger, which is a low-pass filter. And then down here you have a thumb wheel, like looking similar to this one, which controls the chorus depth. When changed rapidly, like it introduced some really nice artifacts. And then on the top here, you can't really see it from down there, but there's another slider you can access with your thumb, which has two destinations for the modulation. The first one, the classic one, is the neuromodulation, which controls that LFO shape that does like multi-stage filtering. And you can change the destination with the right joystick. There's that big fire button, which changes the destination to another lead that comes on top of it. So I'm going to demonstrate both of them right now. And now, if I press the fire button on the right joystick, you're gonna enter the lead mode, where you can like increase the volume of another lead layer. And then if you have the Neuro mode enabled, you can also control the LFO speed with like by turning the joystick to right and left. All right, and I think till now these are the only modulations we installed, but yesterday I figured out that you could do multiple destinations on one slider, so maybe in the future we can add some more functionality to it. But as you can see, it can get like really overwhelming if you're not used to controlling such a device. So you really need to learn the instrument like any other instrument. And maybe in the future you have like the double of the amount of modulations you can use, and then yeah, you can use it as a real instrument that can morph between many different sounds. Yeah, I think that presented the like most of it, and that's basically it. Was a pleasure to work on it. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like you see the max patch, it's based on a max patch we found online, which makes it controllable, like makes Ableton Live controllable with Xbox 360 controllers, but also PlayStation controllers. And that was also actually the way we started with this project, with an Xbox controller. But then we figured, like everybody knows the Xbox controller, you don't have that many sliders on there. You only have a lot of buttons, but you don't have sliders that can map between like a broad range of values. So we saw that this thing is also supported by the max patch, and then we got this thing, and we modded the max patch really hard. So like all of that stuff isn't originally in the patch because it's like pre-routed, and every button corresponds to one note, which doesn't make sense because like this is not a keyboard. You can't play music on this. You only can like control something. So we modded it, and this is what came out. And yeah, we hope you enjoy, and we had a lot of fun making it. And if you have any questions, please tell me. Thank you.
So, yes, thank you for presenting SMAC. I really need to get my hand dirty and like to try it. Yeah, but soon. First, some questions. So, what does it mean for you to design an instrument? What does it mean for you to design an instrument?
We wanted to work with hardware, and we are always like searching in our own productions. We're searching for new ways to make music and to control devices, and this implemented like both tasks, like developing the really big bass patch or really big synth patch, and also using hardware we don't know yet to control it, and to make it like the most intuitive you can. Obviously, it's quite overwhelming if you get your hands on it for the first time, but you really get into it. Yesterday, I was doing it like for 2 hours, and like there were completely different results coming out of it after 2 hours.
With the same instruments, you get different results, or
yeah, because you find out about like a lot of combinations that work better than others. So, for example, if the chorus depth is turned on all the way, turned up all the way. Together with the neuro modulation, it sounds way better than each of the sliders on their own.
And did you had some special genre or some special styles in your mind for which, or some special purposes for which you think, okay, that instrument, or do you think it's more an instrument or an interface? First, do you think it's more an instrument or an interface?
Yeah, probably it's more of an interface than an instrument because we didn't build this device. But maybe for further development, we could think about building like a controller on our own, inspired by a flight controller, because this is like, you don't get any other controllers on the market that get more expressive, in my opinion, than a flight controller, because you have so many buttons, you have so many sliders, and it's way more expressive, in my opinion, than just like a board of knobs and sliders, like on a flat surface. So this you can really, like, it really attracts your hand to go there and to just move it.
But do you don't think that together with this interface and this dedicated instrument, because I think it's a dedicated instrument which was developed for this purpose, or how you designed the instrument, or Jasper, or how did you manage the I think it was quite, you need to thought which parameter can be mapped to which parameter on the instrument, and how was your workflow for designing the instrument?
Honestly, I didn't have anything in mind. I just did a patch with Serum and some third-party plugins, some Ableton stock plugins, and then came to Lewis. It was Lewis' part to do the mapping, and yeah, and it was his job to figure that out, and he did amazing, to be honest. And do you have anything to say about that?
Of course, you have like a long way from having the first version of the patch, because this is not the first iteration of the patch. This is like the fourth one, because like in the first stage you only had like 4 parameters. Then I mapped some there, and I figured, okay, it doesn't make sense to have that slider control this parameter on the left hand, and then you change it up. He adjusts the rack, the patch itself. Then it's my part again to like test how user-friendly it is, and that was the whole process behind it.
Good, thank you. And do you had some genre in mind where you thought, okay, that fits perfect, these flight controller, or not only flight controller, that smack fits perfect to that style?
Yeah, I would say maybe modern drum and bass, or modern dubstep, like these genres, and some artsy stuff maybe, some avant-garde stuff. I'm not sure actually. We still have to figure that out. We'll have to try. Do some drum loops and just try it out.
But of course, you can also like change out the complete patch, because the device itself consists out of this flight controller and the Max for Life device, which gives you the possibility to route 7 parameters. So you can just build your own synth rack inside of Ableton Live and make it different than ours. You can make a patch which is not a bass. Of course, this is like, as he said, it's like really drum bassish, and really fits dubstep well. Really fits dubstep as well. But you can make a completely different type of sound. Of course, it's just a controller.
Okay, thank you. So James and James, do you have some questions or some comments?
Yeah, no, that was utterly amazing. It's really, so for me, flight controllers and flight simulators are like a big thing in like the sort of 2010s, and it's a bit of a nostalgia trip to see those again. But the fact that you've come up with a way to take what's like a sort of £50 or €50 controller and make something more expressive than any of the music tech, like it's a fraction of the price. Take Roly and the Seaboard, how much of those cost? Like you've managed to find a way to be more expressive using this cheap bit of plastic. It's really inspiring actually. And I love when you were going through each of the parameters, like you've thought really, there's a lot of consideration as to which parameter was affected by which bit of the controller. I have a few questions, I guess. You've been sort of talking about them. Where do you see the future of this? Would you want to release this commercially? Would you want to put it on the market? What are your thoughts on that?
Thank you first. And actually, we did this just as a university project, but of course, there's room for improvement. And you could potentially, as I said, build like these kind of controllers yourself, specifically to control synth patches with different macros, because obviously everybody could buy this flight controller, but it's much cooler to have your own, controller. And if I would do that, we would probably improve the amount of sliders, because that was the most challenging on this one. You have a lot of buttons, but you have you have like this one slide in this direction, X, Y axis, then the thrust control, and then 3 other sliders over here that have like parameter ranges value ranges from 0 to 1024, and like that's enough to make it sound interesting, but I'd love it to have like maybe 2 or 3 more sliders, because with buttons you can't do that much, because you only have you either have 0 or you either have a value of 1, and you can just do like Boolean changes. For example, changes of the parameter destination, which we did. But it would be much cooler to have more sliders on it, so you can map it to more continuous value changes. But yeah, that would be maybe an idea for future development.
Maybe what you can do, instead of trying to go down the custom route, because it's probably a type of instrument you would sit down whilst using, you can maybe work with something like extra expression pedals that you can use with your feet, and maybe you can use those values to create additional parameters maybe. And that's maybe an idea. But yeah, no, I thought it was amazing. James?
Yeah, it was fascinating. I really enjoyed it, and I see a lot of flexibility and opportunity with it. Across a lot of different genres, I was trying to imagine how this would work in very, very different styles of performative electronic music. And I was also getting some Author and Punisher vibes, which was really cool to hear. What I was wondering is, if this was to be a piece of software and controller that was released publicly, would you be open to users essentially customizing the routing and how this instrument would integrate within their own systems?
You could possibly think about doing some kind of mapping interface, like a software that comes with it to to set the different mappings. So you could say, okay, maybe like imagine a device with 10 sliders on it and 5 buttons, and in this mapping software you could maybe change the value ranges. You can invert them, which you can also do right here. So if you have a value that maps from 0 to 100%, you can invert it right here, simply doing this. And yeah, it's right over here. You can invert the value ranges, but to make it a commercial product, you could do like a companion software with it to set the mappings, as I said, but also, as he said, you can introduce more controller interfaces. So, for example, you have 2 foot pedals, as mentioned, and just elaborate on that to make it like a more intuitive way of interacting with the instrument.
Cool. No, thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, really, really good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Louis and Jasper, for presenting SMAC. And I would like to give it a try. Yes? Okay. Like to see it in the club also somewhere on the next album. Yes, okay. Thanks. So the next project will be Vamooz. I think we have a 5-minute break or eventually 5 or 10 minutes, and then Vamooz will present the project. Okay, thanks. Yes, so we are back, and now Vamooz is presenting their performance installation, and I hand over the microphone.
Hello, we are Vamooz, and we would like to present you our performance installation today. You will hear an atmospheric changing soundscape that invites you to meditate, maybe contemplate, and in any way enjoy it as you would best like to. As you can see, we also built some art pieces from wood and blacklight strings. All of this will, in a couple of weeks, be presented in a bigger context outside, but you're getting the sneak preview for the whole thing. And I'll tell you about what we're planning to do after the performance. Thank you.
for complication. It's just a vision for me.
Thank you, Catherine, for this amazing performance. I didn't introduce our team properly earlier. This is Catherine, I'm Julian. We're missing two of our members today, Johnny and Zhao. Zhao being our collaborator at the UCA. And to talk you through what we were thinking while doing this project, me and Johnny were working on the sculptures. Catherine and Zhao were working on the musical performance. As for the music, you probably heard some ambient sounds, some trains running. In this way, they try to portray the idea of movement, of moving to different spaces, then of course moving from this more physical space to ambient soundscape, a more esoteric, metaphorical space, you could say, I think, and then coming back into kind of the physical world. One of the ideas that Catherine and Zhao also worked out was that she recorded ambient sounds here in Berlin, and he recorded sounds in the UK. So you're actually traveling from here to UK through some interdimensional plane, which I think is quite neat. As for the sculptures, we originally wanted to build something around a tree and tree roots to kind of to symbolize interconnectedness. After a while of conceptualizing, we agreed on doing these string sculptures, which in my opinion also portray the concept really nicely, because most of these strings you see, it's just one piece of string, like each color that goes around the whole sculpture, and it's all connected and it's all dependent on the rest of the strings or of the string. All right, to finish up, we are planning an installation of Vamooz on the 21st of July in a place called Disco Babel here in Berlin. It's going to be outdoors. There's going to be more sculptures. There's going to be a whole space dedicated to this performance, to this installation. So I want to invite all of you to stop by if you have time. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian and Catherine, for the great performance and that you showed us your pieces, your installation, or part of the installation. What does it mean for you personally when you created Vamooz or this installation?
For me, it was something very personal in the beginning. I always had the idea to really come back to the natural environment where sounds are really created, and it's most of the time just also in the nature. And with all these computers or sample rates, you may sometimes are not able to see the real source of sounds sometimes. And also with the interaction and the room and the nature, it's more natural to be in an environment of a natural space or nature. And for me, it's really something which connected me and myself in a very deep way, and more deeper than sitting in front of a computer and listening to YouTube music. And yes, live performance and live sounds and live interaction with people and room where people come together is for me a very basic setting to feel the human body and the human life itself in a very raw sense. And that's what I just basically create, and I feel like you and Johnny are in the same wave.
Yeah, I definitely agree. For us, or for me personally, the most amazing part of this whole process was creating the sculptures and seeing how an idea kind of takes excuse me, physical reality. Because if me as an audio designer, I work a lot with sound, and of course at some point they exit the speakers. They're real, but they're not three-dimensional. You can't touch them. And with these sculptures, we really we had the designs first, then we acquired materials, we started building it, and it really seeing it all take shape was very meaningful to me.
Thank you. And how should the perfect setup or space look like, and where should it be?
Well, I think we have a really nice setup where we're gonna have our installation on the 21st. It's out in nature, it's in between trees. We're also gonna take some lights, some colorful lights. We're gonna point up into the tree crowns to create more of an ambient space. And I'd actually also say that when you're looking at spaces in nature, there's not really the perfect space. You're more trying to work with the space. which is of course also an interesting experience, because suddenly you don't have a perfectly square space to build all your stuff. You have to work around the trees and with the trees in a way. And outside in nature is good. Everything else is organic and nice in any case, I feel like.
I just need trees.
Great, thank you. And so James, do you have some comments or questions?
Absolutely, that was spectacular work. Thank you very much, Catherine and company. My background is in field recordings, and I've been recording them since I was about this high. So that project meant a lot to me, and I had a real affinity with me. I loved how you mixed, you had a mixture of synthetic and organic sources and bringing in actual percussion instruments and processing them in real time. And at this, real natural quality to it, real organic quality. I love the introduction to vocals as well. That was beautiful. And then going back full circle, starting with field recordings and then ending with field recordings, this very circular movement was really, really nice. I guess my question would be, in terms of for example, the reverb and all the processing that you had on the instruments, was that all done through Ableton, or is that done through external processors?
I've done it with Portal a lot of times. That's just a VST. And in Ableton, yes. So there's no external device, just sample rates.
Cool, thank you very much. No, I thought it was great. We're both massive ambient fans, so that meant a lot to us. James?
Yeah, that was phenomenal. Really, really enjoyed it. The thing that stood out to me the most at the beginning was how you managed to use sounds that we would typically associate as being annoying or troublesome or intrusive, and you still made them sound, in the context, hypnotic and really soothing. So that was a really nice contrast. The question I had was that I suppose in comparison to similar music in this area, you went a lot heavier and deeper. There was a lot of physical power behind the sound. I was wondering if it was intentional to kind of create a much heavier and more moving experience through this.
Heavy? I don't know what the word heavy is. No, I don't know what you mean with heavy, or can you explain again a bit deeper?
Like powerful, like ambient music, I guess. You can jump in.
Yeah, so you would view typically this kind of music as being very calm, very soothing, very ethereal. But this, I could physically feel it. In that sense, heavy, it was physically moving my body coming out of the speakers, and I was wondering if this was the intent of the piece.
When it moved you, that's perfect. That was my intention. Yeah, it's very ambient, and ambient, heavy ambient. That was my intention, to really make it ambient and hypnotic. So heavily music.
Cool, thank you.
Fantastic.
No, really, really, really awesome. And yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
You look great, by the way. Just two guys in a small viereck.
Do you like to say?
What I was going to say is that James, who asked the question on how heavy the ambient is, he owns an ambient label, so that's why he's got different levels of ambient. There we go. So yes, Rustic Tone is his label, and yeah, that was it. But yeah, I just wanted to have a final word, if that. if we have more questions, or. But I thought that was amazing, and I'm looking forward to the 21st. Thank you for that. And I think just a big round of applause from everyone. Can we have a big hand clap? No, I've just been very impressed with everyone's not only creative work, but their presentation skills and connecting with us today. So yeah, big well done, everyone.
So yeah, some last words. So for me, I really enjoyed the outcome of the course. So it was quite so broad. Yes, each group did so different things. So from live performances, but also related to this installation and the setup, and of course how you did it, and the others with the instrument and the interface, and also the installation. And and the dance performance. So I really enjoyed all of the performances and projects, and I'm really excited about the outcome. And thanks a lot to you. And I'm looking forward also for the 21st to see your performance, and also for the others, how you grew and what you will do next. And also, I think it was great to do it together with, I think it was great, or it is great, to collaborate with you at the UCA, University for Creative Arts. And it's such a pleasure to do it together, and also with Laura, with project organization, and to condense the energy of different courses and programs also. And I think we can bring the things up to a next level. And yeah, really enjoyed it. And it's a pleasure to be part of it in a way. And James, do you like to say some last words about the collaboration?
No, this has been fantastic to be a part of. We were very much sort of spectators in a way, so massive props to Laura for bringing the energy and bringing both of these two universities together. Big massive props to the UCS students as well that collaborated with the fantastic Berlin students. Yeah, we've kind of just been along for a ride. We've absolutely loved it. And yeah, we're looking forward to hearing where a lot of these amazing ideas go to. It's been a joy to be a part of it.
Yeah, nothing to add from me.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, and thanks again, Laura, yes, for bringing up these connections. And we did it for different courses also, and for different programs. That's amazing. Yes, thank you. Good, so enjoy your evening, enjoy the night, and see you soon. Ciao.
Ciao.